So first up, let's get you the updates coming in from Beijing. As far as this two-day summit is concerned, President Trump has said that the Chinese President Xi Jinping has offered China's help to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and has pledged not to provide any military equipment to arm Iran amid its war with the United States and Israel. This is a development that is now coming at a time when these talks that has been happening at a bilateral level. What is being said that on the agenda was Iran war, the Strait of Hormuz, and the continuing geopolitical tensions. Let's connect with David Kaye. He's a senior journalist and professor from Washington who is joining us here on the morning broadcast. Thank you very much, David, for taking out your time. Please help us understand when we talk about what President Trump has been saying. Is there a settlement as far as China playing the role of a silent mediator in this case?
I seriously doubt that. President Xi is in a very strong position here, and Trump is not because of this ill-advised and illegal war. And in diplomacy, you have to parse words very, very carefully. Now, I have not seen the translation of the Chinese readout from this meeting, but notice that Donald said that President Xi said he wouldn't give arms to Iran. He didn't say he wouldn't sell arms to Iran. Now, Donald is not a sophisticated man. I've known and covered him for almost 40 years. He may not have grasped that significance if there is one there, but I would be very careful about Donald's interpretation of these events simply because he's totally outmatched by President Xi, a highly educated, very disciplined leader.
Because it's a very measured response that has been coming in from the Chinese side. So, you know, where do you believe and who has the upper hand in this case? Because as far as Iran is concerned, its closest ally is China. Pakistan, that it seems to be playing the role of the mediator, its closest ally is also China. So do you believe that China here in this case has an upper hand?
Oh, I think that very much President Xi is in the stronger position because there's a reason every president back to 1979 has not decided to attack Iran and get into a war with them because U.S. military planners have been very clear in warning about why that is a very bad idea. And if you're going to do it, you would want to follow what's called the Powell Doctrine, an enormous multinational force that is so overwhelming it can quickly defeat anyone. Trump has annoyed, ticked off, insulted all of America's leading allies, and they're leaving him to twist in the wind. And Amita, let me suggest, I think history will look back on 2026 as the year when the United States lost its preeminent position that it's very carefully built up since World War II as the preeminent power in the world, and China has begun to supplant the United States.
Well, the approval ratings of President Trump seems to be significantly going down and being affected. And as far as the Iranian foreign minister is concerned, he was right here in India and New Delhi attending the BRICS foreign ministers meetings there. So it seems that it is all happening in India's neighborhood. David, request you to stay on with us. We'll get a big takeaways for our viewers there to get a better understanding of what happened during the meeting between presidents of China and America. Now, what is being said, you know, can Trump and Xi end the conflict in the Middle East? Because both sides, however, what is being said, have agreed that the Strait of Hormuz must stay open. Then there is another takeaway. President Xi believes that the opposition, you know, he's been opposing the militarization of the Strait of Hormuz, and he has also opposed to any effort to impose any tolls and to seek revenue. Meanwhile, both sides have agreed that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And now what is being also said in another takeaway, that China is willing to buy more oil from the United States. Now, as far as the biggest oil purchaser of oil is concerned coming in from China is actually Iran. Now, Beijing, however, is witnessing the convention of the two influential world leaders, President Trump, who is in China for the summit, with Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping, marking the most significant face-to-face meeting between the two world leaders. And the entire world, which is watching this meeting very closely, as the outcomes from this meeting could have significant ramifications on the current geopolitical situation in the Middle East.
Thank you again, President Xi, for this beautiful welcome. And tonight it is my honor to extend an invitation to you and Madam Peng to visit us at the White House this September 24th. And we look forward to it. And I'd now like to raise a glass and propose a toast to the rich and enduring ties between the American and Chinese people. It's a very special relationship, and I want to thank you again. This has been an amazing period of time. Thank you, President Xi.
Welcome back to China after 9 years. The whole world is watching our meeting. Currently, transformation not seen in a century is accelerating across the globe, and the international situation is fluid and turbulent. The world has come to a new crossroads. Can China and the United States overcome the Thucydides trap and create a new paradigm of major country relations?
Now, with this another development, after Trump meets Xi in China, there is Marco Rubio, who seems to be warning China against using force on Taiwan, saying that the U.S. policy on Taiwan remains unchanged and the Taiwan takeover would be a terrible mistake. The U.S. seems to be reaffirming its Taiwan stand after Trump-Xi meeting, and Rubio seems to be now sidestepping Xi's warning on Taiwan, and the U.S. seems to have made its position clear. So, David, do you believe, as far as the developments in Taiwan is concerned, as an ally, do you believe that with, a hellhole reference that President Trump had made of China, that is being reversed to such a position that when it comes to Taiwan, America is ready to stay silent?
Well, I don't expect that the Chinese are going to use military force in the near future to try and take Taiwan, which they regard as a rogue province, back into their control. The Chinese are very patient about things. They aren't like American politicians who think in terms of 2-year election cycles that never end. And eventually, the island of Formosa will come back into China and under the thumb of the boot of Beijing. But I don't think that's going to happen in the near future. And if the Chinese were to decide militarily to take it, the U.S. is in a very weakened position now. We used up a great many of our very expensive interceptor missiles, Patriots, et cetera, Tomahawks, as the new national security report that came out today showed. So if the Chinese wanted to act, I don't think the U.S. could successfully at the moment defend Taiwan, but these are two nuclear powers. China is going to acquire Taiwan.
But there's been a blunt warning, David, that has come in from China, because it seems to be, coming in from President Xi that any missteps on the sensitive issue of Taiwan could push the two countries into a conflict.
Yes, and the Chinese are incredibly sensitive about this. I was lecturing in China some years ago, and I mentioned Hong Kong without saying special district. And immediately my Chinese Communist Party